Hello, everyone. Good, whatever part of the day it is. Good morning, afternoon, evening, and welcome, everyone. I'll wait for a few more seconds until everyone settles in. There are different audiences today. Some of you are on Zoom. Hello, those on Zoom, but you know who you are. And we're also streaming this in several social media platforms. I think we have X, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram is the other one, I think. So wherever you are, anyway, welcome. So, starting soon. Let's say we've started. Welcome everyone. Hopefully you're comfortable with your popcorn or wine or coffee or whatever it is. I'm Stephen, and I'll be with you for the next half hour, 45 minutes, depending how many questions you have. And by the end of it, I want to answer the question, which will be different for all of you. Is this course, the intermediate deep dive course I'll talk about, is it the right format? Is it what you're looking for at the moment in terms of format, content, price, time, whatever it is? So that's my aim. Um, I'll be focusing on two aspects: the format of the course, which is, I think, important. You need to know it works for you, and the content of the course, especially that intermediate term. Intermediate is one of those words that can mean so many different things to different people. So I'll explain a bit more what I mean by intermediate, and I'll show you the content so that you'll have a better idea on whether that is you. Now, unlike the sessions in the actual course itself, where they're very interactive, we're all talking to each other, unfortunately, the nature of this is that I'm talking a bit more to you. It's very much one way. However, this is me. I've got information for you, but it's also for you to ask questions. So wherever you are, ask your questions. If you're on Zoom, you can ask your questions on the chat. Those on Zoom who prefer to sort of raise their hands and speak, you're more than welcome to do so. Those on the other social media platforms, if you type in most platforms, I should be able to see it. If you see me look on my left there, that's where my chats are. So some platforms don't play ball with streaming. So some comments you might put won't come to me, but most of them would. So I can see some people on Facebook. Hi, 8 p.m. in Sweden, it seems, which is correct. It's 7 p.m. where I am. I'm just 1 hour before. So I should be able to see your comments when you post them. So ask questions, please. Okay, let's get going. You're here to find out about this course, not about me. I'll give you a brief introduction, however, of who I am. Why? Because I'm going to talk about how this course is very much about the live interaction between me as the instructor, I'll be running this course, and you as the students. So you're going to spend several weeks hearing my voice and interacting with me. Might as well know who it is you'll be dealing with. So very briefly, I'm Stephen. My first profession was as a physicist. I trained as a physicist and worked in physics research for about 15 years. In fact, that's where I learned my programming. I learned programming to use it in my science work, simulations, data analysis, and all of that stuff. Eventually, cut long story short, I moved on to something very different. And for the last 11, 12 years, I've been a Python educator. So anything to do with teaching Python, I've probably done it. I've written a book. I've written hundreds of articles online. You'll find them all over the place, Real Python and elsewhere. I've taught lots of live courses from children to adults and beginners to very specialized topics. I've recorded video courses. In any case, I've been teaching Python, and sort of that's what I've been doing for the last decade or so. Late 2024, I joined Real Python to design and launch these and run these live courses. So these are new-ish to Real Python. Many of you are probably familiar with Real Python. If you're new to Real Python, hello, welcome to Real Python. But probably at some point, you're not beginners here. You've all done some Python before. This is an intermediate level course we're talking about. So probably you've gone and Googled something, some Python stuff. If you've done that, you've probably found a Real Python article come up, if not at the top place, in one of the top places. So possibly you've seen the articles. You may have seen the video courses that Real Python has been doing for quite a while. But as of last year, we started running these live cohort courses. We've run quite a few last year. The format works nicely. We fine-tuned it, so I'll tell you all about it in a bit. So that's who I am, and that's where we are within the sort of the real Python ecosystem. Now, we've designed these courses. I'm going to go into a bit more detail in about the formats first, and then the content later, of course. But we've designed these courses. We didn't want these to be a course where someone has to give up everything else they're doing for several weeks. There are courses like that, and they're suitable for some people, but we wanted a course which is flexible enough that you can fit within your existing commitments, whether it's work, whether it's study, whatever other things are going on in your life, this should fit nicely within it. Of course, there's some commitment you need to put in, and I'll talk about that, but that's the flexibility side. However, we also wanted something that is very much instructor-led. So this is not a self-study course. It's not a self-paced course. It's a course led by me. Every day we're going to have content, and I'll tell you again more about that. And the live instructor part, I'll discuss some of the benefits from it, but I think at a high level point, there are two things that some people find useful. It's the accountability. I hear often that people try to learn something, but then other things get in the way, and the learning that you're trying to do by yourself sort of falls by the wayside. Having a course with an instructor leading you every day, as well as other students learning with you, can help with the accountability if that's an issue, and with the motivation, because you're not alone. There's a group, there's an instructor, etc., etc. So that's the general idea of this course, the flexible side of it, but it's very much an instructor-led course where I'll be guiding you throughout the whole course. Okay, let me move on from the site. So this is, by the way, a site. I'll refer to it. I'll be posting some links in the chats as well, but realpython.com/live is where you'll find everything you need to know about these courses. And we're talking about the intermediate deep dive. Good. Let's start. Two things I said I'm going to talk about: the format and the content. Let's start with the format, and let me move on to a different page. There we go. Now, I'm not a big fan of PowerPoint slides, so when you join my courses, you won't see any. And even today, I'm simply going to write some notes as I go along, just so I have something visual. So I'll write my slides as we go along, as you like. Now, the format is important because at the end of the day, it needs to be a format that is suitable for you, suits your style, and that works with your existing commitments. So let me give you a very quick bullet point list of the key items that are relevant for the format. I'll write them down quickly, and then I'll go through them and expand a tiny bit for each one. First of all, how long is the course? That's important. It's an 8-week course. There's a reason why it's 8 weeks and not 2, 4, 7, or 50, and I'll tell you in a bit. So that's the length of the course in terms of beginning to end. How about within each day? I did say this is flexible. So there's about 2 hours, in fact, let's say about 2 hours commitment per day, per weekday. Again, I'll tell you more about what these 2 hours, what they look like. They're not exactly the same every day, and what you'd be expecting to do in these roughly 2 hours a day. I did say this is not a self-led course. This is a very much an instructor-led course, and this includes meeting 3 times a week. So 3 live sessions each week for the whole 8 weeks. Again, I'll expand more on that in a bit. 10 students per cohort, per group. I'll talk a lot about how we want to have lots of discussions, lots of interaction, and small groups are relevant. And finally, let me write this down here and I'll expand later. This is a really important part of this course, the forum, and I'll tell you how it's all going to fit together in a bit. Okay, so that's the quick overview. So hopefully I'm starting to build a picture of what this course looks like. But let me start to now add a bit more detail. Why 8 weeks? And I'm answering this question by answering a different one first. What are we trying to achieve in this course? I'm running this course, but I've also been the one designing it, so I can tell you about the design process of the course as well as how it's going to be running. We wanted a course that covers, by the way, this says Python for beginners there. It's not Python for beginners. This is intermediate deep dive. I'm running 2 sessions today. And there we go. It's late here as well. This is the intermediate deep dive course we're talking about. In case you were wondering, I'm not a beginner. There we go. Can I get a space there? A new line? No, I can't. Never mind. Intermediate deep dive. Um, that's bothering me now. How do I do that? There we go. Anyway, so hopefully you weren't thinking, oh, this isn't for me. No, I am talking about the intermediate deep dive. If you are a beginner, we do have a course for beginners as well, but here I'm talking about the intermediate course. Um, Good. In fact, thank you. Sorry, I've just seen on the chat, a couple of you have noticed, is this beginning or intermediate? My mistake. We all make mistakes. There we go. I should have debugged it earlier. Intermediate deep dive. Thanks for the correction there. So we want a course. I was talking about what we're trying to achieve with this course, which is why I looked there and I thought that doesn't look right. This is the intermediate course. We want to cover quite a bit of topics. We don't just cover 1 or 2 things. We want it to be a substantial because we want this to be for, I'll tell you more about the content later on, but for those who are at a stage, they've done the basics, they've done the fundamentals, and now they feel like they're struggling to get to the next step, to get from late beginner, early intermediate to late intermediate and advanced. It's that gap which can sometimes be hard. So we want to cover quite a few topics, but we don't want one of those courses. Sometimes you see these courses, especially video courses online, where it feels like the instructor is trying to tick as many topics as possible. Let's go through this. I don't think that achieves much. So we also want to have enough time so that each topic we discuss, we have time to explore it from different avenues, work on examples, have discussions, and give each topic enough time to brew so that you can really understand it. So in order to achieve these 2 things, cover enough topics and make sure that each topic we have enough time to explore it in detail, 8 weeks feels like it's a good length of time. As I've mentioned, we've run this course, the intermediate deep dive ran already 4 times last year. Always, all courses were full. We had great groups, and the length of the course has worked really nicely. Shorter, you can't cover as much. The moment a course starts to get longer than 8 weeks, 10, 12, energy levels start to sap at the end. So 8 weeks works quite well. Now, within those, great, Dennis, I can see I've corrected my mistake there. Within those 8 weeks, there's going to be 40 days. It's the weekdays we're talking about. Saturday and Sunday, we don't have content, but of course, stuff can still go on in the weekends, right? If you want to catch up. But the core content is delivered Monday to Friday over the 8 weeks. And each day, almost each day, and I'll tell you why, almost, but let's say each day, I've curated content from our existing real Python material for each day of the course. Some of it will be reading material, some of it will be video courses. You'll have examples or exercises to work on. And this is the content, this is where the flexibility comes in, because this is the content that you can fit in at any point in the day. If you want to do it first thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up, or lunchtime, or spread it throughout the day, whatever works for you. So this is the content which you can cover at any part of the day, whatever suits you. So that's going to be on every single day of the course. Now, this is great, but you will have questions as you're going through that. And there will be certain topics where reading, the discussions we can have are really essential in really understanding them. And that's where we come to our live sessions. As I've mentioned, this is a course where I will be guiding you throughout the whole 8 weeks. And a key part of this is when we meet live. And there are going to be 2 Q&A sessions each week. And that's 60 minutes each. Should I try to squeeze this? How does this work? I don't use this software that often these days. There we go. That looks better, right? And then I should be able to move it. There you go. That's nicer. It's my OCD kicking in. So two Q&A sessions each week. As it says on the tin, these sessions, I don't come with any agenda. You bring your own questions. As you're learning as you're going through this content every day, you will have questions. In fact, this is often one of the challenges when you're self-learning, that you sometimes have a question and you're like, I want to ask this question, but whom can I ask? Or you think you've understood something, but you want to verify that your understanding is right. Sometimes there are nuances that are not quite right. That's where you bring those to the Q&As. There are two things you could do with your questions. One of them is bring them to the Q&As. The other one I'll tell you later on. And these are 60 minutes of us discussing your questions. Often I like to call these Q&A and D for discussion, because it's very much you ask questions, and rather than me just giving you the answer, it's not that I'm hiding the answer from you, but we're actually having a discussion around the topic. The answer will come out of the discussion, but the discussion itself is in some ways more important than the answer, because that's how we really understand what's happening. So plenty of time every week for us to discuss your questions. And this is such an important part of this course, I think. And then that's Mondays and Fridays, by the way. And then we have on Wednesdays, 90 minutes. This is a more structured session, more structured, can I spell it? Yes. Lesson or session, a bit more traditional lesson. What do I mean by this? This means that I'm going to come with a plan for what I want to cover in this 90-minute session. It's still very informal. Nothing I do is formal. It's all very sort of conversational, but I have a plan of what I want to cover. It might be some topics that we haven't covered at all in the rest of the material, or I might pick on topics you have covered earlier in the week, but we're going to explore them a bit further, or explore them from a different perspective. We'll be working on some examples. So that's our 90-minute structured session, and that is every Wednesday there. Good, Eugene, I'm seeing I'm not sure whether it's a comment. Anyway, I'll come back to it later on. So those are 3 live sessions a week. Very informal, not like this session. I often like to say, let's imagine we're all sitting in a room, in a room having a cup of coffee and chatting about Python. So it's very much having those chats, those conversations. And in order to do that, we need relatively small groups. So that's why we're limiting each group to 10 students. There will be 2 groups running at the same time, and I'll tell you more about the times of the live sessions in a short while. But each live session will have up to 10 students. Probably it will be 10 because typically they're full, but this will allow us to have those discussions, those conversations. It will make sure that no one feels inhibited to ask a question or to say what they think. And eventually, 8 weeks is a long time. We'll very quickly get to know each other. You can't do that if you have 50, 60 people. You need small groups. As they say, last but definitely not least, in some ways, I think I like to think of the forum as the glue that binds everything together, because the forum is there just for this course. So just for the 2 cohorts that are running at the same time. So it's a very bespoke forum. And the idea of the forum, as you can imagine, it's to continue the conversation. So I did mention earlier that you will have questions as you're going through the material. And there are 2 things you could do. Bring them to the Q&As, and you can do both, post them in the forum. And the forum is there 24/7. I do go to sleep from time to time, so I'll be there throughout my waking hours, keeping the conversation going, answering your questions, posting my own views on the day's topics. You'll be working on exercises, so you can post your code if you want. You don't have to, but if you want, you can post your code in the forum, which will spark discussions, feedback, etc., etc. So the forum is there to keep the conversation going. This course is very much about me and you discussing these topics through the 8 weeks. And that discussion happens in the live sessions, 3.5 hours every week, and in the forum, 24/7, 7 days a week. Well, the forum is there 24/7, 7 days a week. Good. I was talking a bit quickly there. Normally I talk slower, by the way, but here I don't want to keep you too long, so um, nothing too difficult there. It's more me giving you information. I'll pause there. Now I'm going to talk about the content in a bit. I think the only questions there were about my mistake at labeling this Python for beginners when it was intermediate deep dive. If there are any questions, as a reminder, please do send them. I'll also check on my other platform there. I've got three chats in front of me, so hopefully I don't miss anything. Okay, let me share in the chats I have in front of me a link, and I'm going to go to this link. Stephen, I'll come to your question in a second. I've just seen it pop in front of me. I'll come to it in a bit, Stephen. The question is, by the way, for those who can't see it, how do we decide if the beginner or intermediate is more appropriate? So I'll come to it. Let me move on to the web page I've just given you. For those who haven't seen the link, if you go to realpython.com/live, click on intermediate deep dive, and you'll get to this page. Now, intermediate. What does it mean? It could mean lots of things to different people. A beginner is easier to define, although even there's a slight nuance, but intermediate can vary. So I'm going to go to the material and then that's the best way to tell you. But broadly speaking, this is for those of you who have covered the fundamentals and you feel like you're comfortable with the fundamentals. You know, you're writing for loops, defining functions, using the basic built-in data types. You've been writing code for a bit, you can write code, so you're not in the beginner category. You've done the beginner stuff. You've been writing code, you're comfortable writing code, but you feel like sometimes people say, oh, I feel like I'm stuck now and I really want to, I know there's lots more I can do with my code to make it more Pythonic, more efficient, to make it more robust for larger projects, but I feel stuck. What do I do next? So this is a course which is aimed to taking you from the bottom of intermediate to the top of intermediate, if you like. So you've just left the beginner stage, you're early intermediate, and you want to get to the high intermediate, ready to specialize even further. So let me take you through the content. I'll do this quickly. Now we start off with a review of object-oriented programming. Now, if this is an intermediate course, many of you may have already done object-oriented programming. Some people haven't because it depends. Not everyone's part reaches topics like OOP at the same rate. So people have joined this course in the past where they've like, oh, I've not really done much OOP. Others have. Either way, we start with a review. With topics where we're reviewing them, my approach is always to always dig a bit underneath the surface and to make sure that we really understand what's happening. It's not about knowing the syntax. The syntax is great, but not important in some ways. So it's about understanding why we do things the way we are. So even if there are topics that you feel you've already done a bit, the review you will find will help you understand these topics deeper. Now, why do we start with object-oriented programming in this intermediate course? And there are two reasons. So the first one is that OOP is an important paradigm in modern programming. Some people love it, some people hate it. It doesn't matter. It's there. You can't avoid it forever. Very few programmers can avoid OOP forever. So it's a paradigm that's important in modern programming. We need to learn it. That's the first reason. The second, slightly more important reason, perhaps, is that Python, the language, is built on top of OOP principles. It's inherently an object-oriented programming language. So since this is a deep dive into the Python fundamentals, we cannot understand Python without really understanding the OOP base it's built on. So that's the reason why we are starting this course with OOP, because whenever we look behind the scenes in Python, we're going to find OOP principles. Incidentally, before I move on, I did mention in my bit about the format, that there are three live sessions every week, two sessions you can choose from. And the times, if you go to the page I've sent you in the link, the page I'm on, you will see these times in your time zone. I'm based in the UK, so it's showing me the times in my time zone, but you'll be able to see the times in your time zone. So you don't have to go and convert from, UTC or GMT or whatever it is. So you only need one of these time slots to be suitable for you because you'll either be joining one group or the other, not both on the same day. So as long as one of those time slots works for you, then that's great. You'll choose this once you book on the course, so don't worry about that. So have a look at those time slots on your browser, on your computer, so you can see it in your own time zones. The times will be the same for all the weeks. Good. Again, I've seen questions coming in. I'll have a look at them in a bit. We move on to week two. Week two, we keep building on this OOP basis. We focus a lot on the special methods because special methods, everything that happens in Python, everything. If you dig a bit underneath the surface, you'll find special methods. These underscore underscore whatever underscore underscore. They are the plumbing that keeps Python running. So if we want to understand Python at a deeper level, we have to really understand these special methods well. So we're going to focus on those. And we'll also be looking at data classes because they fit in nicely here. Week three, again, something that's really important in programming, you know this already, is looping. But there's more than just using a for loop. In fact, Python does its iteration in a different way to some other languages, to many other languages. So what we'll be doing in week three is really understanding how Python does its iteration so that whenever we need to iterate, whether it's the for loop or any of the many other iterations that happen in Python besides the for loop, we can do it knowing how Pythonic looping works, and therefore we can do it in the Pythonic way, which makes it more readable, more efficient, and more maintainable in the Python ecosystem. Lovely topics like iterators and iterables, which are the backbones of iteration in Python, iteration tools. We'll also look at generators, which sort of fits with Pythonic looping, but not quite. So week three, we'll be focusing on looping, iterators, iterables, and these topics. We then move on to week four. What's another important thing in programming? Functions, of course. And of course, you know how to define functions and use them. But what we want to do in week four is to take this function unit. There's always more to a function than meets the eye. So we're going to keep digging and digging and really make sure we understand functions at their fullest. Arguments and scope and all the weird, what really happens when you pass an argument to a function. And Python does this differently to other languages as well. So we really want to understand how the black box, which is a function, but it's not really a black box because we can look inside it, how does it really work in Python? So week four is all about deconstructing the function and finding out how functions function. I like the title. Well, I came up with it, so I should. Moving on, week five, we build on functions. So once again, we look at the scope. This can be simple when we look at a basic function, but it can get a bit more complex when we have more complex structures. And then we're going to use that to build onto topics that follow on nicely from functions, closures and decorators, and then we'll link this back to classes. So week five, we are looking at what else can we do with functions, what Python tools are somehow linked to functions. And yet again, as you can see, we're looking at all the things that matter in programming and diving deeper. So one other thing that matters is data types, of course. And in week six, again, this is not about looking at lots of data types and seeing how they work. Yeah, that's great. But we really want to understand what makes a data type, what gives it its characteristics, what are the similarities, the differences between different data types. I've listed one here, mutable and immutable, but really we're going to explore many more than these. We want to decompose data types into all the various characteristics they have and then compare them what are the similarities, differences? Why does this matter? Because there are so many data types in Python, which is great. The problem is when you need to choose one, which one do you choose? And that decision-making process, the more we understand the characteristics of each data type, their similarities and their differences, their advantages and disadvantages, the better placed we are to pick the right data type, which can make a huge difference early on in the project, picking the right data type. So week 6 is all about data types. Now, this is an 8-week course, right? Weeks 1 to 6 are where we're covering all of the content, all of the new content. So what's happening in week 7 and 8? Week 7 and 8, we're going to focus on the project. So now we've covered all of this material. We've discussed it in detail in all of our live sessions on the forum and what have you. Now we're going to take all of those topics and start using them in a single project that's going to last for 2 weeks. And the idea of the project is twofold. It's threefold rather. I can keep going. Let's say 3. It's to review all the topics we've covered because we're going to be using many of those topics. So we're reviewing them and making sure we understand them. It's to see how they all link together because now we're going to take all of these topics and use them in a single project. But it's also to look at the process of how we go from here's an idea I have, here's a problem I want to solve. Every computer program is there to solve a problem, right? So we start with what's the problem I'm trying to solve? And then we have the code we end up with the end. What happens in between? The process from here's the problem I want to solve to here's the finished code is not a linear one. It's not a simple one. So these 2 weeks will give us an opportunity to see a project being built step by step in the way you might do so in the real world. So week 7 and 8, we'll be working on our project. And that brings us to the end of the course at the end of week 8. As I've mentioned, this page, I've sent you the link, or if you go to realpython.com/live, click on Intermediate Deep Dive, you can go through it bit by bit, so you can look at all the topics we're covering and see whether this is the sort of level you are at. I'll mention this at the end as well, but I'll mention it now. If any of you, and I know there was a question about how do we choose between beginner and intermediate, and this is in part the answer. If any of you are unsure whether this is the right level for you, get in touch with me directly. I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk to me. Those of you on Zoom, you have my email already because I've sent you an email and I'll send you another one later. Those who are watching this on any of the social media platforms, you'd probably find me on that platform. I'm not on all of them, but you either find me directly on the social media platform. If you can't find me, you'll definitely find RealPython because that's where you're watching this. Contact RealPython and say, Friday evening, that chap Stephen was talking to us. Can you connect me to him? And the staff who manage our RealPython accounts will connect you with me. So if you're not sure, get in touch with me and I can look at your specific, where you are, your specific requirements and advise you either way. Okay, that brings me to the end of what I wanted to discuss. Now let me have a quick look at questions. I have someone on Facebook ask me more plans. I'm not sure what that means. Feel free to add more to it anymore. In terms of logistics, dates, by the way, dates, I'll show it here because we're there. The next Intermediate Deep Dive, IDD as we call it internally, starts on February the 2nd, so it's a few weeks away. And it runs for 8 weeks. So for everything else, if you come to this page, which I've shared with you, and I'll post the link again, you'll find everything, dates, content, cost, how to book, everything you need to know about the course is on this page. So feel free to have a look there. And as I've mentioned, contact me if you need to. Let me have a look at more questions. So yes, in terms of there is a fee associated with this course. This is a course where you have an instructor, myself. I'll be with you for the whole 8 weeks. It's an instructor-led intensive course. Now, I've mentioned this before. How do we decide whether we're beginner or intermediate? So there is a beginner's course as well. And If you go to realpython.com/live, you'll also be able to see the content of the beginner's course. Some people fall somewhere in the middle, right? They're not quite beginners. You might look at the beginner's course and think, there's a lot there that I know. And if that's the case, you might feel like, do I really want to do the beginner's course? But am I ready for the intermediate course? Now, so the personalized answer is contact me, and I can look at exactly, we can have a chat on email or even on Zoom if need be, and we can find out based on your experience, so we can discuss it more in detail. But broadly speaking, if you've been coding for a while, if you're comfortable with, you can write programs with sort of longer than 100 lines of code, and you're comfortable with that, maybe you've been programming for a while, you probably don't want the beginner's course, you want the intermediate course. And even if there's a bit of a gap, many of the top, in fact, all the topics we'll be discussing in the intermediate deep dive, there's always a quick review in the beginning. So whatever the topic, Pythonic looping. Okay, we're not going to be discussing for loops here, but probably you've come across list comprehensions, right? But we're going to be reviewing them. So there's always every topic, there's a bit of a run-in, if you like, and therefore you can use that and perhaps spend a bit more time on that review if there are topics where you feel like you need to reach up a bit for. So if you're somewhere in the middle, talk to me, but probably the intermediate may be more appropriate. But it really depends where you are. So let's have a chat if you think you're somewhere in the middle. Good. So I've sent you the link with all the payment and cost options, etc., etc. Paul on Zoom. Is there a book or books that align well with the course content or reference study? No. I've developed this course from things I've done in the past, from real Python material. So there's no book as such, but every day of the course, we're providing you with content. So at the end of the course, you're going to have lots of written material, lots of video courses, as well as all the live sessions we've had. That is the content of the course. So we will provide you with the content. It's not a book, but every day I've curated content from the real Python existing material, curated it, taken bits from here, bits from there, put them together so that there's the curriculum for every day. So we're not aligned to any book, but the content you need is in the course itself. So this is not just the live lessons. We're providing you with every day. You'll have reading, video courses. The forum will also provide a lot of discussions that are useful. Andres, I am writing Python code for mechatronic applications, and I was wondering if the school would help me write better for hardware projects. Andres, since your question is very specific, perhaps contact me outside the session. Yeah, perhaps we'll discuss it outside because it's very specific to your application. Nura, I'm from Ethiopia. Can I register? This course is worldwide. I'm based in the UK. Real Python is a Canadian company. Most people, the courses we've run so far has been a nice spread from people around the world. So yeah, wherever you are, you're more than welcome to join. Does the course involve contact with any of the popular libraries such as NumPy, SciPy, Matplotlib, Pandas? No is the answer. The reason is that this course focuses on fundamental Python. So we're not looking at any third-party package. We're not looking at any specific application of programming here. We're not looking at data science. So the libraries you've mentioned there, probably you're looking into data science or the scientific world. That's one application of programming. There are others where there are many advanced Python programmers that have never used SciPy or Matplotlib or Pandas. So this course focuses on core Python. So we're not using any third-party modules. We're not looking at any frameworks. Everything is core Python. Of course, the topics we cover here will then, every third-party library in Python is built on top of core Python. So the principles we cover here apply If you're, I'm sorry, if you're if you're using NumPy, and you have a NumPy and an ND array in NumPy, well, how does it link to Pythonic looping? How does it link to the dunder methods that link to it? So everything is built on top of core Python, of course. But in this course specifically, we are going to stick to fundamental Python, core Python, standard library, no external frameworks and libraries. In fact, Paul had answered that as well. Perfect. Um, can the course content enable me to connect Python to Apache server? We're not going to be covering any of that. So we're going to be covering the actual Python code itself. So in this course specifically, we won't answer your question. But of course, if you want to connect Python to an Apache server, you have to write some Python. This is about what Python do you write rather than which environment you apply it to. Andres, how do we reach you? Since you're messaging me on Zoom, Andres, you got an email from me before the session and you get another one afterwards. Just reply to the email. That's my email address. It'll come straight to me. You mentioned earlier, but just to be sure regarding the content, is it a mix of papers to read and videos? Yes. So Jasper asked me, let me go back to my mind map. So the daily content will include, not every day is the same, right? Some days will be more reading, some days might be more video courses, but I've curated content from the Real Python existing platform, which includes written articles, video courses. So I've selected bits of each, sometimes things that complement each other, right? You might have a bit of written text from an article and then a video course that covers the same topic deliberately, because sometimes you want to approach the same topic from different approaches, and that's where we really understand it. So the daily content will be a bit of reading material, a bit of videos, and exercises for you to work on. And then, of course, we'll meet 3 times a week. Those are the live sessions where we'll discuss whatever questions you bring up and a bit more. So, Jesper, hopefully that covers your question. One thing I should mention at this stage as well is that the live sessions are recorded during the course. I do always encourage people to join live because a lot of this is about the interaction we have, the conversations we have, and conversations you can only have them live. But if you have a work meeting that comes in on a Wednesday when it shouldn't have come in, or you have some other commitment, you have to miss a session, or perhaps there was a discussion that you found useful and you want to listen to the discussion again, then all the sessions are recorded and will soon after each session, you get the recording of the session. You'll also get access to these recordings, all the content that you'll be doing, as well as all the forum after the course as well. So all of this material is available, not just for the duration of the course, but afterwards as well. So let me share the link again. In terms of pricing and time and dates and everything, the link I've just shared. And for those of you who don't get the link on some platforms, they don't play ball with streaming, realpython.com/live, and then click on intermediate deep dive. So all the details in terms of dates, times, the times of the sessions in your time zone, cost, how to book, and all of that is all there. I did see another question pop in front of me. No worries, by the way, those of you say need to drop, perfectly fine. Sarah, you mentioned that there will be 2 groups with 10 people each. Is the enrollment first come, first serve? Yes. So we monitor as bookings come in. We ask, as soon as you book, you'll get an email from me asking you which session do you want to be in. We're flexible, as in, we have some flexibility built in, but when a session becomes full, then if someone wants that session, then they can't book the course, of course. But we normally don't have too many problems. Normally, we see that both sessions fill up roughly at the same time. But yes, it is unfortunately in the first come, first serve. Speaking of sessions, sometimes I'm asked this question. I haven't seen it today, but I'll answer it. If you are on the late session, for example, and on a particular Monday, you can't join the late session. The recording is there, sure. Can you join the morning session? Yes, there is flexibility. We're not rigid in the sense that if you're on the evening session, you have to join that one. It's better if you stick to your session as much as possible because we get to know each other as a group, and also we want to make sure the numbers are the way they are. But if there's a session where someone needs to join the other one in the day, that's perfectly fine as well. Um, Let me have a look at any more questions that come in. Will there be a Python course following this, like a Python advanced course, which may be kind of like, so yes, we don't have dates yet, and we don't have finalized plans. But as I've mentioned in the beginning, some of you may not have been here in the beginning, so I'll review this. The live courses at Real Python are relatively new. Well, I say that they've been there for a year now. The first one ran starting January last year, and that was an intermediate deep dive as well, by the way. So we've ran these courses several times last year, and so far we've started with intermediate deep dive. This was the first one we designed and ran several times. And then we added the Python for Beginners one. So gradually we're adding more titles. So at the moment, there's the beginner, the intermediate. With the advanced ones, the likelihood is the direction we're going is that they won't be necessarily an 8-week advanced course, but there'll be smaller courses that are a bit more focused. So after the intermediate deep dive, it's very likely that you'll want to have a course specifically on databases or specifically on web development. And therefore, the more advanced courses will probably be shorter and focused on specific applications. I've mentioned earlier that the intermediate deep dive is not looking at any specific application in Python. So it's suitable for whatever you're doing in Python. But beyond this, you may want something about data science or something about whatever it might be. So there will be other courses. They're not yet finalized, so we don't have titles and dates, but they will be available soon. Um, Good. Perfect. Yeah. The logistics are always, price, size, number of students. There's always a balance to be found there. Stefan, I can see your point there, but um, yeah. Okay. Now, I have covered more or less everything I want to cover. So since I'm on this page, let me do two things. Let me review very quickly the format of the course, and then I'll finish off wrapping everything up. If there are more questions, please do send them. A reminder, which I'll do again at the end, if you're in doubt whether this course is for you in terms of level, contact me directly and I'm happy to talk to you. So, quick review of the format. It's an 8-week course. Every day of the course, there's roughly 2 hours commitment from your side. I say roughly because some days are longer, some days are shorter. Some of you may go through some material quicker. Maybe you're a quick reader and you know this material already a bit. Others may need a bit more time. And of course, some people sometimes ask, what if my Wednesdays are really busy or my Thursdays are really busy? Well, you can always do a bit more work the day before or day after. So there is the flexibility inbuilt. Very importantly, we will meet a lot during this course, 3.5 hours every week. A lot of it is driven by you and your questions. So the whole point here is that we can have those live discussions. You can ask questions and we can discuss those topics. 10 students per cohort, and then there's the forum where we keep the conversation going. So there's plenty of discussion. The main point of this course is that, yes, there's a lot of content, but it's all the discussion and all the exercises we're working on together in live sessions and the forum that really gels everything together. Good. I cannot wait to see the advanced sessions focus. Yeah, we will have these live courses are relatively new at Real Python, so we're gradually building this portfolio. All the courses run last year were either a beginners or intermediate course. They were all very well received. They were all They were all oversubscribed, and therefore we're going to use that as a basis to add more courses. So yes, we'll have more of them. Good. In that case, let me finish off where I started. I've shared the link a few times in the chats, but if not, realpython.com/live, click on the intermediate deep dive course, and that's where you'll be able to find all the information I've been discussing, dates, times, content, cost, booking, etc., etc. A reminder, I promised you I'll remind you at the end. If you need to contact me, you're more than welcome to. Send me an email or contact me on social media, wherever you find me. And hopefully, thank you for joining me today. And hopefully, I'll see some of you on February the 2nd for 8 weeks of lots of fun diving deep into Python. Thank you very much. I'll stay in the background in case a few more questions come in, but enjoy. It's Friday today, right? Yes. Enjoy the rest of the day or the rest of the evening, if like you, it's the evening, and have a great weekend. And hopefully, I'll see you soon, either in this course or in a future course or somewhere else in the Python world. Bye bye.